Let's explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
When we're laying on our deathbed, you're not going to worry about how much money you had, how much power you had, how much prestige. You're going to see that that was all game, that was all an illusion. The only thing that's going to matter is the impact you had on other people's lives.
We are all on a separate journey. But the beautiful thing about our life here on this earth is at my funeral, they ain't going to talk about my success. They're going to talk about who Nick was and how Nick lived and how Nick loved and encouraged.
Success is incredibly important, but even more important than success, it's having an impact. It's knowing you haven't walked the planet in vain. It's knowing that because you've been here, you've blessed lives, you've developed people, and you have made the world a better place.
The effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Everything you gain in life will rot and fall apart, and all that will be left of you is what was in your heart.
Life is a mirror. And life gives us not what we want. Life gives us who we are. When you were born, you cried while the world rejoiced. Live your life in such a way that when you die, the world cries while you rejoice.
Have you ever stopped to wonder about the soul behind the spotlight? The truth behind the headlines? Beneath every glamorous facade lies a story waiting to be told. A journey full of triumphs, struggles, heartaches, and victories. Welcome to People, the groundbreaking new series here on the Alpha Warrior Show. Tonight, we're setting politics aside. No hidden agendas, no filters, just pure, raw humanity. In a world that constantly tries to categorize us, it's easy to forget what binds us together. Our shared experiences, our laughter, our tears, and the authentic moments that define who we truly are. Each week, we're going to explore the powerful, emotional, and beautifully imperfect lives of people who inspire us, captivate us, and remind us that we're all in this incredibly messy and extraordinary journey together. We'll laugh, we'll reflect, and we'll dive deep into the stories that often go untold, unapologetically, real, and deeply personal. Get ready to meet the heart behind the headlines, the reality behind the reputation, the persona behind the person, the grit that makes these amazing people tick. This is People, real stories, real connections, real life. And when we come back from this commercial, it's showtime, and I hope you enjoy. Stack Stats with River, the Bitcoin-only platform built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Why River? Zero fee recurring buys, stack Bitcoin effortlessly, hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly. 3.5% Bitcoin interest on cash, FDIC insured, no minimums, withdrawal anytime. Expert US-based support, human help plus private client services for big guys, 100K plus. Business accounts, boost your balance sheet with Bitcoin and earn 3.5% paid in BTC. Top tier wallet, send, receive, and manage Bitcoin securely, unmatched security, full reserve custody, multi-sig cold storage, and proof of reserves. Join the Bitcoin revolution at badlandsmedia.tv/river and earn real returns. That's badlandsmedia.tv/river. Your crypto deserves the ultimate protection, and Trezor delivers just that. Trezor offers a secure and user-friendly solution for managing your digital assets. It delivers on its promise of robust security, providing a crucial layer of protection against online threats and unauthorized access. Since 2014, over 2 million users have trusted Trezor, the world's first hardware wallet, to secure their Bitcoin, Ethereum, and over 9,000 other coins and tokens. With state-of-the-art encryption and offline storage, Trezor keeps your assets safe from hackers, malware, and exchange breaches. Its open-source design ensures transparency, while the Trezor Suite app makes managing your portfolio a breeze. Buy, sell, swap, and track with ease. Designed with simplicity in mind, Trezor ensures that even those new to cryptocurrency can navigate its features with ease. With Trezor, you can confidently manage your cryptocurrencies, knowing that your digital wealth is protected by industry-leading security protocols. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/Trezor to get your Trezor and safeguard your crypto with confidence. That's badlandsmedia.tv/Trezor. All those links will be down in the description below, including the links to follow my two guests tonight. You guys, very special people episode. Why? Because we're not going to have one person, but two people that are joining me today. And the mission that they're on is something I think is going to affect us all in some way. So one of these guests you'll recognize, the other one is a new one. So let me bring these ladies up on the screen. Welcome, Gabs, and welcome, Dr. Nikki. First of all, thank both you ladies for joining me on such short notice. You know, Gab had requested, hey, can you put this information out? And I was like, yeah, of course, I'll help out my friends. And then when I started looking into it, I was like, this got to go way beyond just sharing a post. Like this is important. So again, thank you, ladies, for joining me. And again, to the audience, the links to follow them, the links to follow their program will be down in the description below. But which one of you ladies wants to go first and kind of tell us what you guys have kind of been working on to give us a feel of what we're going tonight?
Gabs, you go first. Thanks for having us, though, Alpha. Thank you so much. Gabs, you go first, the intro, and then I'll bring up the rear.
Thank you, Alpha. Thank you so much. Yeah, we've been working with families. My daughter was socially transitioned into believing she was a boy at school. And I decided, no, we're not doing that. So I created a program to help her successfully desist. And she has been desisted now for years, and she's doing well. But there were so many families that came to me and said, how in the world did you do that? What did you do? Can you help me? And I started helping people. And then it got to be kind of, it got to be a bigger thing. And I needed help. So I reached out to people and asked people if they would be willing to learn the program. And Dr. Nikki showed an interest. And I got with her, and she apprenticed under me for a year, learned the program, got her life coach certificate. I have an addiction recovery certificate as well. And we started helping families, helping pull children out of this cult, one family at a time.
All right, now look here. So I'm a pediatrician by training. I left my career behind in 2023, at least the clinical career of things behind. Lots of issues with pediatrics, lots of issues with hospital medicine. I've been involved in healthcare policy for quite a few years. And I had major problems with all of the organizations. COVID really put it over the top. My kids were affected by COVID. I have two daughters. They're getting indoctrinated in school by the same type of madness. But, even though we're, conservative family, and we teach them in, other ways, right? So I left my career behind, and I saw that this stuff was happening. One of my daughters was more affected than the others. My husband and I handled it, but, before it got to any significant, level where we needed some serious intervention. However, I saw that no one was really doing anything about the problem. I tried to join some other groups, some nonprofits. I started a parenting group at home near us with a private school network of parents, and realized we weren't really getting anywhere. We thought we were just trying to educate people about this stuff, but I realized that it was way beyond just educating people. These people were fully indoctrinated. This was definitely a cult problem. And I read as much as I could about the backstory and all of that. But I looked at all these organizations that were supposedly combating this false ideology, which is, that trans exists in the first place. And I just didn't feel like they were really doing anything. And so I heard Gabs' story and saw what she was doing. She developed this program that she put words to all the things I was thinking about in a very strategic way. And she was having an effect on people's lives. And I'm a solution-oriented person. Everything I've done in health policy is always about solving something. I don't want to just be complaining on the internet about things. That's how I got started in my advocacy. I was in Facebook groups with doctors complaining about how healthcare was going. And I was like, well, who's doing something about it? What can we do? Like, what's the solution? So that's what got me really active in it. And once I saw Gabs, I was like, this is it. This is it. This is the solution. This is how we get it back. I'm also by my own history. I've been in the Republican Party for a while. I've always been a conservative, bred as a conservative, and I didn't see them doing anything either. I was actually a central committee member in my former county. And I was just really disappointed and jaded about how the party was handling things. It was fantastic to see Trump come in with executive orders trying to kill all of this stuff from a legal standpoint, but realizing that this is much more of a cultural phenomenon that needs a cultural solution. I felt like Gabs had the right decision. And I mean, I had started working with her and hearing from her. I actually did an interview of her and wrote, a written and published interview on Substack for a nonprofit I was working on at the time. And that's what really, really got me learning a lot more about the program. So I did apprentice under her, see clients with her for a year, and I was getting my life coaching certificate, and we were like, let's go, let's get this on the ground. She tried to dump it off to me out. She didn't want to work on it anymore by herself. It is, and I understand that after working with her as an apprentice over the years, it is very difficult work. We are dealing with families in crisis. We have to, and it forces us to relive some of our own parenting issues and parenting problems when our children were experiencing this stuff. It is not easy work. So I understand why she wanted to give it up, but I convinced her to stay on, and we're partners with it. And it's amazing. I believe it's the only program that's out here doing what we're doing, things that are actually going to change kids for the future, not just this one specific issue. We are tackling a cultural issue that is so pervasive in our society right now, and we need more support, and so that's why we're here telling the story.
100%. So I'm going to share something I've never shared on people. This is, I believe, our 19th episode, 18th or 18th episode of People. And when I created this particular series, it was because I wanted to preserve people's stories. It's just, we know about all these things people do, but we don't always know like their story. And when Gabs asked me for, to repost this information for, I've known Gabs for a couple years now. And I remember at the very beginning when she recognized this problem, she was living this problem, and this problem invaded her home with, what's most cherished to you, your child.
Yep.
And, Gab could have did like a lot of parents did, and not by fault of their own, just everybody's built different, and just kind of just been like curl up in a ball and just be like, why me? Why my family? Mm-hmm. But Gabs ain't like that. She's a go-getter. She's what I call an actionable person. Mm-hmm. And I got to see Gabs in real time start to tackle this issue, like literally fight to save the life of her child. And a lot of us got to see it. Now, here's the thing. Most people would have stopped there. I saved my kid. I did it. But she was like, I got to do this for everyone. And to see her start to go this way. Now, you did say something. So my prior life, Doc, because if somebody would have said I was behind a camera and a mic, I would have been like, you are crazy. my prior life, I was in law enforcement for about a decade and a half, working, law enforcement, homicides, detectives. That was my career choice. That my entire life, I set myself up for that journey. But there were things that happened towards the tail end of my career that I was like, that ain't right. I'm not going along with that. And it put a target on my back. Ultimately, that took my career from me. And so when you were explaining, that you're in pediatrics and you saw a problem and, you're going to people and nobody was doing anything about it. Listen, it takes a very long time to get into the career of choice that you made. Yep. And I immediately said,
yep,
I know more about this woman than I did coming into this, because that tells me where your priorities are and where your character is. Because when you said that, there's nobody there, not only is there nobody there, the few people that choose to go there, you become a target.
Yep. Yeah.
And I mean, you're talking about the most powerful people, the elitists, the global governments, big pharma, like everybody sees you as a threat and says, we need to make an example out of them. So, just my hats off to you ladies choosing to go after this. Now, I do want to bring it back just a little bit, Gabs or Doc, whichever one you wants to kind of address this. For the audience that doesn't really understand some of like the scientific words or that, what exactly are we talking about? Like, what happened to kids that is the issue that we're addressing here?
What happened to them is they were fully indoctrinated to believe that they can change their sex and reject their sex. And we believe that there are three primary causes of this. One of it is the acculturation, which is the indoctrination part. This indoctrination is everywhere. And I'm sure you guys have talked about this and seen this for your own selves. It's in the schools, it's on the television programs, the kids shows, it's everywhere. Hollywood, it's in our churches. Gabs and I specifically had an event. We met actually in the flesh a year ago, December. We went to rally. I spoke at the rally in front of SCOTUS for the Tennessee Scarametti case versus the U.S. And I spoke there, and we met, and we were going to the bathroom, and there was a United Methodist Church there. Somebody was standing at the door and told us we couldn't go in to use the bathroom, and invited us to use the Lutheran church down the hall, down the street. It was freezing cold out, but we were not allowed to go in a church. So this is happening. I mean, these churches have flags and people there to in front of it. It is in every single cultural institution in our society. It has invaded everything. It has taken over. Anybody thinks it is. It is not. It's not. Even conservatives who are using the language of the trans cult themselves, because they are indoctrinated by some of this stuff too. Even though they say they're not affirming, they're using the language and they don't even realize they're using the language. So that's part of it, number one. And then there's an addiction part of it too for these kids. They're addicted to digital devices, they're addicted to the internet, social media, all of this stuff that keeps them enfolded in the trans cult. They're addicted to, once they decide that they're going to reject their sex, which is we don't use the term gender dysphoria. It's a full rejection of your body and your physical self as you are naturally. We don't use any medical diagnosis, because this is a pressure indoctrination culture issue of opportunistic people trying to take advantage of children. And they start being addicted to just changing themselves. You start to look like a boy, then you got to adopt other things that look like that are boy. You wear the clothes first, then you cut your hair, and it just becomes more and more and more. You see in these guys, the guys who are doing it, who wear the makeup and really are showing themselves on the internet, that saying that they're beautiful and they can pass. They do everything they can to pass. It becomes a full-on addiction. Okay. And then the second part is the third primary cause is the affirmation. The affirmation is all the people and things around them that affirm their position and their belief in themselves, that it is possible to reject our sex. And it just continues. It becomes a continuous cycle. Those are the primary issues. And there are some secondary issues that are involved with it as well. And those are individual basis type of things. So
let me ask you this, Doc, before you get into those.
Yep.
With that affirmation portion, If society just rejected that and didn't do that, wouldn't it collapse the entire model?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's why we listed as one of the primaries. That is a huge portion of it. If the teachers didn't do it, if their own parents in some cases didn't do it, if the government didn't do it, if our medical professionals didn't do it or encourage it and drive it, it would be gone. It would be gone. And, there is some hope on the horizon, at least from the health professional standpoint. I don't know if you were aware of the news that was just published yesterday, a detransitioner or ex-trans, a young lady who at 16 had her breast removed because her psychiatrist and her doctor told her parents that she would commit suicide if she didn't transition, won a lawsuit and won $2 million in damages, which, you could argue is not enough, but that is the beginning. These people need to pay for what they're doing to children and harming children. And I hope I was upset that the AAP got dismissed from one of the detransitioners lawsuit, but let's let this be the ball that gets this all rolling in this one lawsuit. So absolutely, totally agree with you on that one.
Let me tell you why I think what you guys are doing is so important. So important. I'm not talking a national security issue. I'm talking a humanity issue. Is, a detective. That's what I spent a third of my life doing. And all a detective is we're a secretary that has a gun that looks for patterns. That's it. And when I look at our society and our culture, and I go back and I say, why did we look like this in the 40s? And how did we get here now? We're not even 100 years. Not even yet. How did that happen? So you have to start looking at, what dominoes started to collapse, and for those that are not familiar with Yuri Bezmenov, he talks about ideological subversion. And that you start to look, when you go and you look at our past as a culture in America, you're just like, man, this was into play, 1984. Some conspiracy theorists are going to run with that one. But that's when that came out. But this was deployed way before he ever told us about it in the early 80s. And so when I look at that, it's just, you look at all these things that it's separated man and woman, in our society. And then it kept going. And then, there was, the sexualization thing that got very confusing for people. And then when I started looking, I was like, well, what, and this is just my opinion, I could be wrong, but what is their end game? Like, where do they want us? And you start to see, tech and AI, and it's just like, these guys, and I don't know what your ladies' beliefs are, but I do believe in God, whatever name anybody wants to call him. I believe we have a creator. And I was like, these guys, they want to play God. They want to create, the human that lives infinitely on this planet, not with my creator. And so when I said, if that's their ultimate end, then what they're doing is they're slowly pushing God out of everything. And when I look at, the story of humanity, people believe it, started with a man and a woman, created life and went on from there. But if you want people to get to a point where they want to be hybrid, part human and part machine or AI, whatever that looks like, you have to destroy their own identities. You have to make men not see value in being a man. You got to see women not see value in being a woman. And I think that starts by telling people you could be either one. It's interchangeable. And I see you guys tackling this issue because I think the next step for them after this, I'm a man, or, as a man, I'm a woman, or as a woman, I'm a man. I think the next step is to show that it doesn't even matter. Let's just eliminate the thought process of man and woman and just consider ourselves just the human, just a person. Because once you get people to abandon, and like I said, I'm not a psychologist. I dealt with thousands of people a month for many, many years. Once you get people to abandon their identity, you can make them anything they want to be. And that's to me, that's scary in society. It destroys our entire culture. I feel like it's the nail in the coffin. And I feel you ladies are tackling the problem, the last layer of defense before they get into that, where it's like, it doesn't even matter if you're a man or a woman. Like, I think I truly, truly believe in my heart that's next. And that you guys, that both of you are taking this on to say, no, you are this person. To me, it is biblical. If as a man, if I, tell a young boy, oh, you could be a girl, I almost feel like I'm telling him, like, God made a mistake and you're fixing it. Instead of realizing that you're just perfect. You're perfect the way your creator made you. I feel like this entire process goes against that. And I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Well,
you don't have to agree with me.
Well, I mean, I'm a Christian, and Gabs an atheist, and I'm going to let her, explain her role in this, her thoughts behind this. But I also think it's really extremely important for conservatives to understand that this is a part of queer theory. There are a couple of people who are profiting in quotes off of this. One is a financial, there's financial people who are digging into that to figure out who is really trying to make money off of this. But there's also the ties to Antifa, and queer theory has all these ties with the Marxist agenda that we're seeing right now. All the things that are happening, that we're witnessing and are happening in Minneapolis, those people who are rising, they're the same people who want to see this through. And they are, this is the ideology that only separates us by our socioeconomic class, completely erases your identity of anything except for your socioeconomic class, the elite, rich, proletariat, bourgeoisie versus the proletariat. So this is that. When you erase people's identity, you don't need to delineate race, sex, right? So that's a big part of it. And destruction of the family, you have to consider that component too. Because if there's no nuclear family, there's no man, woman, there's no reproduction, there's no family. And it's just these people on the bottom versus these people on the top. And so that is a huge part of what we're doing is tackling this at the family level, in the individual level. We want to keep families intact so they can raise children who are healthy and developed and can push back against this stuff and go out into the world and live productive lives and handle it with mature means, so they don't fall into the trap of this ideology that thinks there's only two classes of people. And that's our structure, and that's our goal behind this. We want to save families and the family structure. So there, and I'll let Gabs talk to you about because it's important for her, because as an atheist, I think it's really important to hear her story and where she fits in this, and how she came up with this idea. So
100% agree with you. Before you go real quick, Gabs, Doc, you did use a term, and I hear people use it. I want to make sure the audience understands. When you say queer theory, if you can just briefly tell us what exactly is queer theory.
Okay, so it's really a political type of theory. It goes along with critical race theory. And if you really examine the roots of it, it started off with explanations about, it really wants to, the full goal is to erase gender as its own social construct, basically. That's really what I'll boil it down to that and leave it and leave it there.
So Gabs, please tell us.
Yeah, I'm a little more aligned with what you think, but I think it's a multi-pronged, it's a multi-pronged problem coming from multiple places to reach multiple different goals, right? So I do feel like that there is just, doing this for the sake of transhumanism is as an end goal. I do believe that. I do believe that, I believe that the reliance on women makes a lot of the progressives feel like that is a limitation that we can't afford for the future, because you have to have women in order to make babies. And if you don't, the process of not needing a woman to make a baby is the ultimate goal. So the transhumanism, humanoids, all of that stuff, I do believe that that's part of it. I do believe that, but I also believe that, but that's from one area, right? Like that's coming from the top, but there's also something coming from underneath, right? And I think that's, what Dr. Johnson was explaining, that there are these, queer Marxists who are trying to completely and totally dissect the family, so that they can, they can have their utopia. You know what I mean? And everybody is the same. There's no identifiers for anyone. And we're all living in, what did the guy say, living in the glow of the community or some nonsense like that. The guy from
the warmth of the collective.
Yeah, one of my sons is about to walk in here. Both of my sons are about to walk in here.
Oh, they're coming to visit you for your birthday.
Come on, yeah, they're coming to visit me for my birthday. Come on, run on in.
Well, I didn't know it was your birthday today, Gab. So one happy birthday. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Sometimes
I wasn't expecting them. They sent me a text, but I wasn't expecting.
Well, there you go. Tell them to come through if they peek in.
Yeah, they don't like being on camera.
Especially,
I filed the first federal lawsuit against CRT woke indoctrination, and that's the kid who did it. So he doesn't like being on camera.
Exactly. So, here's one of the things, and to me, sometimes I think it's divine intervention. A few nights ago, I just got home from a very important trip, and little princess of mine's like, Dad, you told me you'd take me to get a big toy. And Target is like her mall. Like the Target toy section is her mall. And I was exhausted. And you guys know what it's like when you're just tired, but you're looking at them, you're like, all right, I can't betray your trust. Let's just go to Target. So we go to Target, get the toy, and I'm just like, something got in my sinuses, and I feel congested, and I'm like, I gotta blow my nose. Before we do the drive home, I gotta blow my nose. So I go into they have the restrooms right there next to the check stand. And so I run to the restroom, go into one of the stalls, grab some tissue so I can blow my nose. Now this is like 15, 20 seconds. And as I'm coming out of the stall, a woman walks in and just sees me and just keeps going. And I'm just like, am I in the wrong one? I tell her that, right? And she's just like, it's the ladies, but just calm, like not a care in the world. So I'm like, I'm probably beet red for a brown guy. Like I imagine myself beet red. So the door's there, and I pull the door, and it is the woman's emblem.
Oh no!
And I'm just like, oh my God. And so I'm out of, so I'm like, sorry. And I come out. But I remember thinking, it didn't bother her. Like, I expect like screaming, like, some craziness. And it just, like, she was just like, here's the guy. Like she didn't even be like, oh, here, there's a man in here, reverse course and leave. Like, no, she was going to keep going to, go take care of her business. And I remember thinking, like, have we made people that damn comfortable with it?
Yes,
like,
we have.
I'm in Southern California, for those that are curious, specifically out, near the Palm Springs area. But it was just one of those things where I was like, man, that's bad. Like that should have resulted in screams, and there's a man in the woman's restroom. Like that's what should have happened. And security should have came over and been like, hey, dude, what are you doing? Like I should have been approached aggressively by the staff, where I would have, then explain my story. Hey, it just sinuses. I just rushing because I ain't trying to get boogers all over your store and stuff like that. But, but up until that point, like, I feel like it just seemed acceptable. And that bothered me. That really bothered me. I don't know if you got something to say about that, Doc.
Yeah. So I think it's, That's really interesting. I'm actually not really sure what I would do in that situation. I don't believe Target has changed their policy since they said it was okay to mix genders in the bathroom or mix sexes in the bathroom. So I'm pretty sure that if I walked in and I saw a man, I probably would have just walked right out and be like, I'll wait until you come out. And that's probably what I would have done. I wouldn't have been screaming. I'm not a screamer, that's just, so that's not it. But yeah, I do think that
I might have handled it a little bit differently.
there's places where Gabs probably would have been yelling at you and calling you all kind of names, and she would have handled it herself. She wouldn't have been calling the police. I would say that. But there is what I really want to say about this is that one of the things that frustrates me in Gabs is that conservatives don't see this affecting their daily lives anymore because they feel like Trump is handling it and all these laws are handling it. But there are states that are normalizing this thing. And the people who are on our side are the gays who don't want the trans crazies all up in their political movement and ruining gains that they made. And then there's the rad femmes who are absolutely 100% would have been screaming at you and probably attacking you to get you out of that bathroom, who are still fighting this. And those are the two groups that are consistent and that have been supportive of us. But we don't have conservatives supporting what we're doing. And we have a conservative solution where you got two women who are sacrificing their own time and money and effort to get this done. Gabs makes a ton of sacrifice. She's fully committed to this. I do work a little bit. I mean, I have, I still have a mortgage and I still have kids at home and a husband. And I, have to work, a little bit more, but we give up a lot. And, I'm telling you, like you said in the beginning, I gave up my career for things that I believe in. And this was one of those things that I believe in. It's not the only reason I left my practice, but we're doing this and providing a real conservative solution. And we don't have, thank goodness for you, and people like you who want to give us a platform and tell us and give us the opportunity to tell our story so we can get support. But conservatives have gotten complacent. They really don't want to work and intervene and solve problems at the individual level. They want the government to do everything for them and then yet and still complain when the government does things wrong. And that is one of my biggest frustrations and things that makes me so upset doing the work that we're doing.
Yeah. Now I want to get into your guys' program now, but before we do, Gabs, and only to the level that you feel comfortable with it, can you kind of just give the audience a brief, synopsis of kind of what happened in your home with your child that kind of inspired all this to be birthed?
Right. Well, I mean, it was with both of my children. So watching the indoctrination affect two of my 5 children and the only 2 that were in school. My other children didn't fall into this nonsense. They didn't have this, they didn't have this in a woke indoctrination where, racism and, gender and all that stuff. Everything was all about race and gender. Only my 2 children who are in school. And, my son, he was asked to, and we talked about this in a previous podcast that we did years ago, I guess. My son was asked to list his identities and attach the signifier of privileged or oppressed to those identities on an assignment at school. And when he refused to do that, the school retaliated against him. And we had no other choice but to file a lawsuit. And that's where the first federal lawsuit against woke indoctrination came in. But as I was fighting that lawsuit, I didn't know that, my daughter was being socially transitioned without my knowledge. And when I finally came to that, and really realized what was going on with my daughter, realized that her behavior and the treatment of the rest of the family members and her attitude about her body image issues and all of that stuff, all of those things were coming from the school, and they were being affirmed by the school. And so I had to create an escape plan, very similar to the way that you would make a plan to escape from a domestic violence situation. We even stayed at an undisclosed location in Las Vegas, for a couple of weeks while I tied up loose ends before we left. I mean, it was also to make sure that she didn't run away. It was just, because that's one of the things, that's a common thing that happens once the kid realizes that they're moving away from their groomers, then, they'll run away. And I wanted to avoid that. I could see the patterns long before I even made any real moves. I could see how this was shaking out. I could see that there were families who were losing their children if they didn't affirm them. And so, I finally made the decision and made the plan, and we were able to escape and come back home to my hometown of Houston, Texas, and be with my family, my extended family. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. And so I tried a lot of different things, and believe me, I made a lot of mistakes. And so, I know a lot of the things that any normal parent will do. I can't tell you how many times me and Dr. Johnson, we get parents that come in and they tell us the things that they've done. And we're just like, yeah, we did that too. That was a mistake. We talk about some of the mistakes that were made because this is a cult, and they've taught our children how to navigate our reactions. So we had to outthink this cult. And those of us who were able to do it successfully, some of them weren't able to do it successfully for long because then their kids fell into something else. And even it's a struggle every day, even still with me, with my children. It's a struggle for all of us, and our children are forever changed by COVID. They don't hug, they don't kiss, they don't, you know what I mean? Like I was shocked to see my sons just show up because they usually, it's usually, they'll send me a text or maybe call, but, it's not just an impromptu, showing up at my home. And they live down the street, so it's a really crazy situation when everything, as a parent is not going to work because this cult has already prepared your kid for what you're going to say.
Yep.
And so
yeah.
I took note of what was working. I took note of what was not working. I got my family to help me. I introduced my daughter to some of my high school friends so that they could tell her what I was like when I was a girl. And I had my aunties, my mom's sisters, to tell them what the relationship between my grandmother and my mother and me and all of the women in our family, to give her a sense of history and give her a sense of belonging and a grounding. And all of those things really did let me see that this was more than just this was going to take more than just a good talking to or a good a good fussing at or discipline or rules or anything like that. This was going to take some real connection, that I was going to have to my kids are disconnected from everything, from family, from tradition, from anything real. And I was going to have to make those connections for them. And I was going to have to facilitate that process. And so when I saw that and I realized that was when I was able to create something more structured. And once I did that, and I shared it with on my ex profile. I shared it, in a weekly thread of how the steps that I took. And once I did that, people were starting to see, and they were like, okay, some people were able to just take that. They were able to just do that and help their own children. But some people, they were in more difficult situations and they needed help. And that was when I started helping them.
Yeah.
One of the things go ahead, Doctor.
One of the things I want to emphasize about her stories too is in her case that the school was really doing a lot of the indoctrination and really affirming her and trying to transition her actively. In my family situation, COVID really was a key factor because it put all of our kids on the internet. And my husband and I were in a position, by the way, my husband's in law enforcement too. So we both had we were essential workers. So we had to go to work and we had to leave our kids with a video camera babysitter because nobody wanted to be around essential workers' kids because they were going to give them COVID, you know what I mean? And so we had to leave them alone at home, and they were on the internet. And when I talked to my daughter, was starting to question things about her own self, I asked her where she got this information. I was assuming it was the school. I assumed. I was like, oh, you get this from the school. The school is woke. They're doing this to you. And she's like, no, it's the internet. I made the mistake and allowed them. We made hard and fast rules about no social media. And we restricted their internet use, except we allowed her to get on Pinterest was one of them. And then Reddit was like really like a stupid mistake. But that was one of those mistakes. The internet, like Gab said, they have groups, they have a language that they use that traps kids in. We call this parallel language. We're writing a book, and in our book, we actually are listing some of these translations, what we're calling them, so that parents can recognize this language. Because you ask a lot of questions about the language. They're using that stuff to indoctrinate, groom kids, but also coach them on what to say, what to anticipate, how their parents are going to respond. And most of us, especially a lot of us Gen X parents, we're going to respond the same way, like the hell you are, and you know what I mean, like that, and we raised you differently. That's just not right, and that's just not reality. That's stupid. You're a boy. And it works for some kids. It doesn't work for others. For the most part, it depends on the age. It requires a very individualized approach, and it's extremely important. Yeah. So yes, while somebody else is introducing these ideas to your kid, it still took Gabs and I both some introspection to realize that there was something in our parenting that allowed our kids to go this route and accept this information. But that also meant that there was something in our parenting that we can do to fix it.
That's right.
And that's by design too, Doc. So first, I don't know if you were able to catch it, but one, you are a very special woman to be married to a cop.
He's a good guy.
Tell him find me a cop husband. I need a cop husband.
I helped him pass his exam. Actually, we were together as a couple before he even became the police. And so I helped him study for his entrance exam and everything. So he's pretty close to retirement right now.
And I think that's a very key to success. I might have to bring you back for another show just on that, Doc. You knew him before that. So you get to see, all right, here's the change of behavior here. Here's some stuff here. You get to work with that because you know the pre-life cop. The one, hats off to you because it's, you unlike a lot of women, if your husband gives you a call or his number shows up at 2 a.m, he just wants to tell you about a foot pursuit or a car chase. But for you, your heart gives pause because you're like, is this that call? It's terrifying. Yeah. My hat's off to you for that, Doc. But one of the things that you said is, they, both parents are having to work. Like society has created that to survive on a single income. That's an anomaly. Like it's it's so hard to find yourself in that situation. So if both parents are out there working to provide for their kids so that they can have, a nice life, you're right. Well, then who has their attention? And something your husband would understand is, one of the things that we're concerned with in military or law enforcement are choke points. Choke points are what, present the greatest danger to us, because that means we're all going to get funneled into a little area, usually a doorway or a hallway, which makes us vulnerable to an attack.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you take that concept
Yep.
and
Yes.
you apply it to narratives and agendas, you on the good side or the bad side, because the bad guys are doing it. But on the good side, if you can be like, where's a choke point in their agenda? And if you can get to that choke point first, this is where you can dismantle things. And the reason I know that works is because I see that's what they're doing.
Mhm.
A choke point for families is that point where both parents are out of the house.
Yes.
And
Yep.
and so I'm very interested in hearing, I think one of you guys mentioned it. One of the things, and it's on your site as well, that kind of sets your guys' thing apart is it's showing parents, it's teaching parents how to assist in this process. Now, I know that there's going to be some people that are watching that are actively in this problem in their homes, and they're like, yeah, I need help. I'm going to tag into you guys. I know that's going to happen. But I want to give you ladies both the opportunity to speak to another set of parents that I think that are listening. And because I see this in the drug addiction world, so I assume that that's probably in this world, are those parents that want to pretend the problem is a phase.
Yes.
And they're just letting that kid get into the quicksand more. What are some of the mistakes you see those parents making, whether you experience it or someone shared these stories with you? If you can speak to those parents that think they're just dealing with the phase.
And that is why affirming reality exists, because a lot of people, when they think about gender ideology, or they think about transitioning kids and stuff like that, they think about the medicines and the surgeries and all of that stuff. But social transition is all of the transitioning that happens before the medicines and the surgeries. That's the point at which they become ideologically captured by this cult. And there are too many families who think it's just a phase, because that's what I thought in the beginning too. I thought, okay, this is what teenage girls are like now. Roll, but I quickly realized, no, this is not normal. It is not normal for your daughter to come to you and say, Mom, I want to cut off my breasts. It's not normal for a boy to come, go to his mother and say, I wish I had breasts. You know what I mean? That's not normal. And so a lot of parents really do think that this is a phase that they will grow out of, or they want to observe what is called watchful waiting. We are vehemently opposed to those ideas, because what ends up happening is they get further and further inculcated into this cult. And then when they become of age, then they start on the medications and the surgeries. A lot of people think that they're going to grow out of it. No, they grow into it. They get more, they ruminate on it for years. They get more and more captured by it. And it creates it creates a delusional world that they live in, and it affects their behavior. It affects the entire family. Whole families are ruined because one person in the family is identifying as trans. And that is why, we believe in desistance as soon as possible. We even have we're starting now to have some families come to us before their children even disclose to them. They found out through other means or seen their social media or something like that they're identifying as something other than their natal sex, whether it be trans or queer or whatever. And they come to us and they get help. Those are the people whose children are able to just move through this as if it were a phase and then go on to live productive lives. You can't just ignore it. It will not go away. Watchful waiting may have worked at some point and at some time, 30 years ago, but that's not going to happen now. And like you were saying about patterns, I've been studying television, just television, and binge watching television shows for the last four or 5 decades. And the very first episode of The Love Boat was of John Ritter pretending he was chasing a woman, and he was stalking this woman. She didn't want to have anything to do with him. He chased her onto the Love Boat. There were no more cabins except for one, a bed in a female cabin that that a person could share. But because he was a male, they wouldn't allow him to do it. So what did he do? He went and put on a dress, pretended to be a woman, to trick a different woman into sleeping in the same room with her so that he could stalk another woman. This is the first episode of The Love Boat. Later on in that same season, Laura Ingalls Wilder, the Little House on the Prairie girl, she was on an episode where she was pretending to be a boy. They were calling her by a different name. You know, she liked a boy on the cruise on the Love Boat. He was mean to her. So she tried all of these other things to get him to like her. And by the end of it, she, realized that she's just a tomboy and this is the things that she likes. That's the earliest that I saw of this being made popular and being looked at as something that we should normalize. That was before I was born. I'm 49 years old today. That was a year before I was born. So, I mean, that's how long this has been going on. So and it's not like it was in the 70s when you just realized that you were a tomboy. No, they're taking it that extra mile to convince these children that they were born in the wrong body, and that if their parents love them, then their parents will allow them to transition and be supportive of them transition and taking these medications and having these surgeries. And I have had enough. I find lawyers for detransitioners as well, and I have found enough lawyers for enough detransitioners who have become eunuchs. That they've had their genitals removed, who have had all kinds of other serious and severe medical problems because of all of this. And I've found them lawyers. And there is absolutely no way to change sex. And even if the medical procedures were perfect, it is still a delusional lie, and it still ruins families, and it still ruins your soul.
I want to piggyback on all of that. Of course, Gabs always says this very perfectly, but I really want to emphasize this. This is not the same as girls who think they're, who want to do things that boys do at the traditional tomboy. It's not that. That's a more natural. These are the things that I'm interested in. This is what I want to do. I just don't, conform to all the feminine stereotypes, but I still think I'm a girl. This isn't that. This is a complete change in their belief system against what is reality. So it's not going to just be a phase because of the reason, one, that they got into it, because it's an indoctrination. It's part of our culture. And there's people out there, again, affirming it. There's the addictive nature of it that persists. That's not the same thing as just being, not conforming to gender, to sex stereotypes. It's not that. So that's a bad thing. The second thing is that when you do that, when you just treat it like it's a phase, there's some scientific data out there that says that this phase, the social transition stage, is a gateway to like Gab said, the medicalization and the surgeries, which are physically more harmful, but the psychological damage, and there's also some physical harm that goes along with the social transitioning stuff too. Girls wearing binders on their chest or restricting their chest, they can get pneumonias, they can have pain from this stuff, they can all kinds of stuff, worsening asthma things. There are people who are giving little kids prosthetics that can go in their underwear. And those things can cause ulcerations and pressure, other pressure sores, things like that. So just allowing it to be a phase it's a horrible, horrible term and phrase that I really caution parents against. The second point that I want to make about this is that what we're seeing now, because of all of the laws that are pushing this away from minors being able to go and get these surgeries and medicalizations, that people think that's the major part of this problem. Kids are hiding this stuff from their parents. Gabs and I have clients right now. The majority of our clients right now are young adults who parents are telling us that their kid just suddenly told them that they wanted to be a boy or a girl as a young adult. They went off to college or they're about to go to college, and they came to them and just said, I'm this, I'm that, and I'm going on hormones. And the parents had no idea it was coming. It's because these kids now know that, and they're well groomed to not tell their parents until they get to the point where they're of an age and they can go and get their own hormones themselves. Mm-hmm. So watching it and acting like it's a phase is not going to be the answer at all. And then completely trying to suppress it with laws isn't helping either. And, it's helping some, like we're preventing some of those medical harms early on in kids, which is great. And I do applaud that, but it is not changing the cultural phenomenon that is driving these kids to think that they can become the opposite sex.
This is so disgusting. I'm listening to you guys, and you guys are describing when, aside from murders, some of the worst cases that we had to deal with in law enforcement was the sexual assault of small children. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the highest percentage of those assaults come from a known suspect, whether it was a relative, a neighbor, a friend, but somebody that knew the family. And that component's important because that's a strategy of the predator. When we would go back and investigate these cases, what we realized was these predators would get to the point where they made the family feel comfortable to leave this child in an environment where it was just them, so then they could attack them. Mm. Meanwhile, these predators were, seeding out these things to see if that kid is a potential victim that they could be successful with. And so how does that translate to this one? When I'm listening to what you guys are saying, Gabs with the Love Boat, so many decades ago, I feel like it's like this, this entire, institution is like that predator. It started to seed this stuff to see who could be the potential victims. Yep. And then what? Create a society where you force both parents out so that this child's now alone for these predators. I mean, that's what it sounds like on a large scale. It's gross.
That's actually happening. I mean, that actually literally happens, Alpha. Like, yes. I mean, there are some groomers who are so successful that the kids run away, that they're taken away and put into a foster care situation where they are trafficked. I mean, there are young people who are convinced to engage in pornographic materials and things like that, and creating pornographic materials because the groomers will tell them, this isn't your body. You don't have your body yet. You don't have your real body. This is your old body. And so it doesn't matter what you do to this body. So you can work and, you can prostitute yourself. You can create porn. You can do all of that because you're trying to make the money so that you can get your new body to be your truest self. I mean, it's literally happening with predators. You are way more likely to become a victim of a predator after you have had some sort of after you have had some sort of sex rejecting characteristics visible, right? Like when people see that, I mean, this was another aspect of the program, talking to my daughter and teaching my daughter about, her appearance and how she looks, and the way that predators see her if she looks like nobody cares about her, because we know this about predators, right? They always will go after somebody who they think nobody cares anything about. And so, I mean, all of that stuff all falls into this. There was a law, Sage's law, that was passed. I think I don't even remember what happened with that law, but that was because the state of, I think it was the state of Virginia, took a child away and put her in a foster care situation, and she was trafficked. She was trafficked to Texas, and the Texas state troopers had to rescue her. And then they put her back into another foster situation that continued to abuse her. This is not theoretical or conceptual. These things are literally happening. There have been suicides. There's been abuse. There's been all kinds of real problems.
Rape, pregnancy.
Yes, that have come from this. People thinking that if they've changed their sex, then they can't get pregnant.
Yeah. Or you put a girl who's a foster, who's identifying as a boy, in a group home with other boys.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to get pregnant or raped or worse.
Yeah.
So this stuff is happening. There's horror stories about this stuff everywhere.
Yes.
And even though it has, conservative states or red states are protecting their minors, it's happening in red states too. The kids are getting trafficked out of the red states into these accepting blue states with shield laws.
Mm-hmm.
It's everywhere.
Let me ask you ladies this, within this program, and again, you'll see the handle going across the screen on the bottom. You'll see the links down in the description, folks. Do you guys help address, because granted, there's a whole lot of different states with a whole lot of different state laws. Is there like an instruction or an assistance program here to help people deal with the legal side of this? Because I'd imagine there's probably some situations where you got mom or dad that's against this happening, and you have mom or dad that's trying to help support the child go into this issue. Like, I mean, that has to be like one of the toughest spots to be in.
We do offer resources. I mean, it just depends on the situation. Every situation is different. But yes, I mean, the woman who just came out about the Ukrainian woman, she came to us and we helped her. We helped her get her story out, and she's still currently looking for legal representation. The family in Montana, whose daughter was taken away from them, a friend of the family came to me directly, and I was able, my organization was able to help her get her story out and retain legal representation, and they were able to sue the state of Montana. That's a red state. So yes, we do as much as we can to provide legal resources and referrals for people. But the vast majority of the people who come to us are trying to avoid that problem. So they come to us before it becomes a problem, for the most part.
Yes. And our program does, I mean, we will continue to see everybody in every situation. Mm-hmm. We have, single dads with joint custody and affirming mom. We have, all kinds of married couples where one parent is affirming and one isn't. Although most of our clients are married to someone or have spouse or some sort of partner support where they both agree, that they shouldn't affirm. But we do help everybody, and we do. And Gabs has been doing this a while. That she actually had an organization that was connecting all of this stuff to help people get all of those resources. So she knows a ton of that. So that's one of our assets too, is that she's had that experience, and she knows the legal loopholes. But part of our coaching strategy is to help people make decisions about what to do. One, to avoid that legal jeopardy situation, because if you go out and you go off on your kid and you start yelling at them and I ain't gonna do this and you ain't gonna do that, and they go to school and tell their teacher that you are not affirming them, then now that teacher is going to report to the state, to the county social worker, who's going to say that you are putting your child in an unsafe position. So one of our strategies is teaching parents what to say, what not to say, to avoid these pitfalls, because a natural instinct can get your kid taken away from you. And that's in any state, because the social worker doesn't need a law to tell them, it's okay to recommend that this child be removed from the home. All they have to do is say, this child is unsafe, I recommend they be removed from the home. They don't need any proof or other evidence except for what they write down, and then your child's gone, and you are fighting to get them back.
Let me ask you this, and we got about 8 minutes left, so I want to make sure I give you guys the floor to talk about anything specifically you want to make sure this audience hears. But one thing I want to make sure that I ask you is, you guys have come together with a package of things that have already been tested to work. And at least that's what it sounds like to me, as well as recognizing things that have not worked and made the situation worse. Have you guys been around long enough to start seeing a lot of success stories to let, parents out there wondering, like, do I do this? Do I don't do this? Because right now I know parents have a lot of trust issues, and kids, like that's our most sacred thing. If you can kind of just let people know, here's a reason why you might want to consider what we got together. If you guys can kind of sell this program to my audience.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we believe parents have the power to take their kids back and save their kids. We do. There's a lot of things that parenting, has taught us. We've been taught as the appropriate way to teach kids and parent kids has changed just in the last 10 years, at least, especially with, advances in technology. COVID made a big dent in this, made a big part of this, and we haven't adjusted our parenting. So our strategy one tackles those things. We actually created our own parenting strategy that we call guided growth parenting. There's not a single other organization out there who's helping kids with this and families with this who really thinks about the parenting part of this in depth at all. So that's number one. Number two, Gabs has done this for at least a year and a half longer than I've been with her. And she had a ton of success in a lot of the younger kids. Now we're seeing young adult kids come out. Last year, 2 young adult families of young adults who their kids were already on hormones came to us. We got both of those kids off of hormones in a matter of a few months. So parents it takes longer for parents who waited and went through a psychologist, therapist, all of the traditional routes, and then came to us, than it will for families who come straight to us with this early on, as soon as they see signs of it. So that is a deal. But our program is successful. There's nothing like what we're doing. No. And we're like we said, we're dedicated. We're giving our time. We do charge a fee. We have to pay the bills. We have to eat, right? So and we're experts at this. It may sound boastful, but it really is, and a program that works. So if any parents out there are struggling with this, have questions about their kid going through it, just contact us for a free consultation. Affirmingreality.com is our website, and you can schedule the appointment right on the website. To meet with us for about 15 minutes for free, and then we'll decide if you fit our program.
Anything you'd like to add to that, Gab?
Yeah, here's the thing. The reason why this program is different from therapy, okay, like therapists or going to a psychiatrist or whatever, because there's nothing wrong with your kid. Your kid doesn't have gender dysphoria, okay? That's not a thing, okay? They're in a cult. They've been captured by a cult. And if you treat this like there's something wrong with your kid will continue to believe that there's something wrong with them.
Yep.
And and here's the other thing. I made sure to structure this so that it was basically, it's action proof. When I mean action proof, you cannot be, the government cannot take action against you for parenting your child, right? Like, they cannot take action against you for parenting your child. So we teach parents how to form better relationships with their children. And then their children just naturally let this delusion go. So it's not conversion therapy. There's no medications involved. There's no psych meds or psych drugs involved. There's nothing like that involved. We teach people how to communicate better with their children so that their children will come to them with their difficulties and with their struggles. Those two young people that we were able to get off of, we did not talk to those people that were on hormones. We didn't talk to them. We talked to their parents. And their parents didn't convince them to get off the hormones either. Their parents treated them with respect and exhibited boundaries and helped them understand what reality is. And they just stopped taking them on their own. There is no other program that does this. The kids don't even know that you're on the program because, this is about a acculturation problem, right? This is about an indoctrination problem, an addiction problem. All of those things can be dealt with in the home, in the family, with better communication. If Charlie Kirk can talk to people and change their minds, you can talk to your own kid and change their minds.
Absolutely. Affirmingreality.com. Again, folks, that link will be down in the description below. One of the things I want people to understand is I've known Gabs for quite a few years from, when she first went public with this story. And aside from this, she is an action person. She has been at places where Antifa and these mobs have tried to attack her, and she's never backed down. She's reached out on social media and been like, hey, are there some men that can show up and protect us while we do this stuff? Because she puts herself in very dangerous situations to fight for the kids. So just understand, Gabs is action oriented, and Gabs also recognizes, quality. So when she brings on Doc Johnson with her, that's all you need to know about Doc Johnson, that she's amazing. And then I'll add that Doc Johnson is married to a cop. So again, you have all this, and you had the chance to, spend a little over.
Should have lived with that.
With all this, and on top of that, whether you realize it or not, Gabs, you do so much stuff that's important, like what you did a few moments ago, identifying what it's not, to tackle what a lot of these parents are being sold. This is what it is, and this is a way to cure it, because again, big pharma, these agendas, and I know that you guys are going to be successful because I see that you guys are recognizing things that have to happen, because a lot of what you're talking about too is getting parents to develop that rapport with their child again.
Yes.
And that's huge. And how do I know that's huge? Because in undercover work, that's what we do.
Yes.
We create a reality for these people that we're going to go in with, and to get to that reality, we got to develop a rapport. So I just listening to you guys, I can see that you have an understanding of how to undo the stitching of what this evil cult has done to our most sacred. So I know you guys are going to be successful. You've shown that you're successful. You guys, a living example of success, Gab, within your own home. So one, I will tell everybody is affirmingreality.com. At a minimum, folks, at a minimum, share this. Even if you're like, well, I don't have this issue within my family, share it. So at least someone who follows you, friend, coworker, church member, whatever the case, maybe they have something. I would imagine for a lot of families, this is one of those things where you're embarrassed or you want to keep it a secret. And so a lot of people may not know you have this problem until it's too late.
Yes.
So, you know, put this resource out there for those people that are living a nightmare and are not even saying anything about it. You know, be the person that put, you know, because again, I put a lot of correlations with, you know, drug addiction on this, where I hear people later, they're like, man, I didn't even know my brother and my nephew were having this issue. You know, I could have put something in front. I didn't even know, like it was a secret from everybody. And so if that's the case here, you know, granted, you know, people don't like to be told that they got a problem in their family.
Yes.
And that might put some stress on that relationship with you and a brother or a sister or a family member. But what would you rather live with? Having a pissed off relationship for a couple months, a couple years, but knowing that you saved them, or watching these people that you care about go down a path that's going to destroy everybody and then live with regret later, being like, I could have just said something, you know? So ladies, please, your final thoughts, and I will continue to pray for your guys' movement.
Yeah, we'd love to have any parent. And yes, absolutely make the appeal to help people follow our work. Follow us on X at Affirm Real. We are also on Substack, Affirming Reality. We're writing a book right now. We're almost at the editing phase of our book, but we are actually publishing draft copies of our chapters. So if anybody wants some of the information that we gave today and more details, subscribe to our Substack there. Our overview of our program, with a little bit more detail than what we discussed today, is actually up on X, on an article on X, but it's also on Substack for free. But the other articles do require, you know, a paid subscription to get to that content until our book is published. So please share. We have a Give, Send, Go as well. If you want to donate to us, because we do need money. We don't just need the shares. We actually need money. We need to be able to survive, and we need to be able to publish the book as well to get this content out. We want to help every single family that's going through this. We want to share our information, and ultimately we want to teach other people to do exactly what we're doing. So we, you know, since it's just the two of us, we're not going to take care of the whole country. We actually take care of international clients as well. We got a couple that are in Australia right now. So we're taking on the world. We want to ruin the gender industry completely. So thanks again for having us, Alpha. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And Gabs, happy birthday. Didn't know it was your birthday. And so happy birthday.
Thank you.
Folks, if you enjoyed the show today, do us a solid, like, share, subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. And stick around and support our last sponsor. And I'll see you guys next time. Good night. God bless, and Semper Fi. I don't say this lightly. This lotion changes people.
My knuckles would actually start to crack. Started using the soft disclosure lotion, and I am very impressed. Even within just a few days, I've noticed a tremendous difference.
That's not a script. That's what happens when something actually works.
It puts the lotion on its skin, or else it gets the hose again.
Yeah, that line keeps coming up. Because when you don't use it, your skin starts acting up.
Every single ingredient in soft disclosure is intentionally chosen. There's no filler ingredients. It is not like this BS product where they have a bunch of ingredients. Every ingredient listed is for a purpose.
Over 65-star reviews for the lotion alone. Not influencers, not actors, just people whose skin finally shut up. Soft disclosure lotion. Once you try it, you'll understand why people won't stop talking about it. Visit softdisclosure.com and use code BADLANDS and get 10% off.